Have you ever noticed something strange? The more you try to make certain people understand you, the less they seem to respect what you say. You explain why you said no. You explain why you left. You explain why you made that decision. You explain why you couldn't help. And when they still question you, you explain even more. Until a simple decision becomes a debate. And somehow, you're the one defending yourself. But what if the problem isn't that people don't understand your explanation? What if they've already understood you, and they're simply testing how strongly you stand behind your decision? Because sometimes, the more you explain, the more you accidentally communicate uncertainty. And today, we're going to uncover 7 psychological reasons why people may start ignoring you when you constantly explain yourself, and how quiet confidence changes the way people perceive you. Ask yourself this: when someone disagrees with you, do you explain your position? Or do you feel like you have to prove that you're allowed to have it? There's a difference. Confident communication isn't about talking less just for the sake of talking less. It's about knowing when your words are necessary and when your behavior has already said enough. Let's begin with the first psychological shift. Social perception isn't based only on the words people hear. People also pay attention to behavioral signals, such as hesitation, tone, posture, eye contact, and how strongly someone stands behind a decision. That's why 2 people can say exactly the same thing and create completely different impressions. One person says, "I can't stay tonight." The other says, "I can't stay tonight. I mean, I probably shouldn't. It's just that I have this thing tomorrow and I've already stayed late twice and I hope you understand." The decision is identical, but the signal isn't. Imagine a young employee named Daniel. His manager asks him to stay late for the 3rd time that week. Daniel is exhausted, so he says, "I can't stay tonight. I already have a commitment." His manager asks, "What commitment?" Daniel starts explaining. He talks about his schedule, his family, his previous late nights, tomorrow's meeting, how hard he's been working. 5 minutes later, he's still explaining. Then his manager says, "So, are you staying or not?" Daniel realizes something. He wasn't communicating anymore. He was asking for permission to say no. The next week, the same situation happens. This time, Daniel says, "I won't be able to stay tonight." His manager asks why. Daniel answers, "I already have a commitment," and stops. No argument, no speech, no emotional defense, just clarity. You don't always need a stronger argument. Sometimes you need a stronger relationship with your own decision. If you have already decided, don't turn your decision into a negotiation. Human beings constantly make social judgments from nonverbal behavior. Facial expression, posture, eye contact, movement, voice, and timing all influence how communication is perceived. So imagine walking into an ancient philosopher's hall. 10 people are arguing. Everyone is moving. Everyone is trying to be heard. Then one person becomes completely still. He listens. He waits. He doesn't fight for attention. Eventually, everyone notices him. Why? Because attention doesn't always go to the loudest person. Sometimes it goes to the person whose behavior communicates, "I don't need to compete for this moment." There was once a young philosopher who entered a hall where several older scholars were debating. Every scholar wanted to prove he was right. One interrupted another. Another raised his voice. Another began explaining his position for several minutes. The young philosopher said nothing. One scholar finally looked at him and asked, "You have been silent for a long time. Do you have nothing to say?" The young man looked around the room. Then he said, "I was waiting until there was something worth adding." And he became silent again. The room changed. Not because he had spoken loudly, but because his silence suddenly had meaning.
Think about your own conversations. If someone interrupts you and you immediately rush to speak faster, your body communicates pressure. But if you pause, maintain eye contact, and calmly finish your sentence, you communicate control. Your communication begins before your first word.
Humans naturally care about social acceptance and belonging, but when our behavior becomes strongly driven by approval, our decisions can become less independent, and people can notice this. If you constantly watch someone's reaction, if you change your position every time they disagree, if you immediately apologize for harmless decisions, you may unintentionally teach them, "Your opinion controls me."
Imagine two friends. Alex invites Marcus to a party. Marcus doesn't want to go.
He says, "No, I'm going to stay home tonight." Alex looks disappointed. Marcus immediately changes. "Actually, maybe I'll come." Alex says, "You don't have to." Marcus replies, No, it's fine. I'll come." A week later, the same thing happens. Marcus wants to say no, but again, he changes his answer when Alex looks disappointed. Eventually, Alex learns something. Marcus's no isn't really a no. It's an invitation to negotiate. Now imagine Marcus responds differently. "Thanks for inviting me. I'm staying home tonight. Have fun." That's it. No guilt, no anger, no long explanation. He doesn't need Alex to agree with his choice. You don't become more respected by making everyone happy. You become more trustworthy when your words have consistency. Conversation needs pauses. When people aren't immediately given another statement to react to, they have more space to process what was already said. This is one reason deliberate pauses can make communication feel more controlled. Think about an argument. Someone makes an accusation. You immediately respond. They respond. You defend yourself. They challenge you. You explain again. The conversation accelerates. Now, imagine something different. They accuse you. You pause. You look at them and say, "I understand what you're saying." Then silence. Suddenly, they have to think.
Two philosophers once faced a heated disagreement in front of their students. The first philosopher spent several minutes defending his position. Every sentence created another question. The second philosopher listened. He didn't interrupt. When the first philosopher finally finished, there was silence. Then he said, "Perhaps you're right about one part, but not the conclusion," and stopped. The students became quiet. The disagreement didn't disappear, but the conversation became different. Silence doesn't automatically make you powerful, but knowing when not to speak can prevent you from giving your power away. Healthy boundaries require clarity and consistency. When a boundary is presented as something that must be endlessly justified, the conversation can shift from respecting the boundary to debating the reasons behind it. Consider the difference. "I can't lend you money" versus "I can't lend you money because I have expenses, and last time I helped someone, and I don't know when I'll get paid, and maybe next month I can..." Which one sounds like a final decision? The second answer creates openings. A woman named Elena constantly helped everyone at work. Whenever someone asked her to take on another task, she agreed. Eventually, she became overwhelmed. One day, a coworker asked her to take another assignment. Elena finally said, "No,
I can't take this one. The coworker asked, "Why not?" Elena started to explain. Then she stopped. She took a breath and said, "I already have enough responsibilities right now." The coworker looked disappointed. Elena didn't argue. She simply returned to her work. For the first time, her boundary didn't require everyone else's approval.
A boundary can be respectful without being weak. Try, "I understand, but I can't do that." Or, "That's not something I'm willing to do." Or simply, "No, I won't be able to." A boundary is not a debate. You can explain when explanation is useful, but don't confuse explanation with permission. Confidence is strongly connected to perceived capability and repeated experience of acting effectively. In other words, confidence isn't only something you feel. It's something you build through behavior. You can't talk yourself into being respected forever. Eventually, people look at what you consistently do. Do you keep your promises? Do you follow through? Do your actions match your words? Do you stay calm when challenged? That's where credibility comes from. Consider a young man named Adrian. At first, nobody in his workplace took him seriously. He talked constantly about what he was going to accomplish. He explained his plans. He told people how hard he was working. But his results were inconsistent. Then something changed. He stopped talking about his plans. He started arriving on time. He finished his work. He kept his promises. He stopped announcing every achievement. Months later, people began asking him for advice. Nothing magical happened. He simply became consistent. And eventually, his behavior became louder than his words. Don't spend all your energy explaining who you are. Build evidence. Let your behavior introduce you. This is where the idea of quiet power is often misunderstood. Silence isn't automatically confidence, and speaking isn't automatically insecurity. The psychological difference is intent. There are times when you should speak. If someone crosses a serious boundary, speak. If someone misunderstands an important issue, clarify. If you've made a mistake, take responsibility. Quiet confidence doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means you don't speak simply because you're afraid of being misunderstood. Imagine someone publicly accuses a philosopher of making a mistake. Everyone turns toward him. He could immediately defend himself. Instead, he waits. He asks, "What exactly do you believe I did wrong?" The person explains. The philosopher listens. Then he answers the specific accusation. One sentence. No anger, no performance, no unnecessary defense. And then he stops. That's the difference. He isn't silent because he's afraid. He's silent because he's in control of why he speaks. The goal isn't speak as little as possible. The goal is make every word intentional. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, ask 4 questions. 1. Did they actually ask for an explanation? If not, why are you giving one? 2. Have I already made my position clear? If yes, repeating yourself may not make it stronger. 3. Am I informing them or seeking approval? This is the most important question. 4. Would I still make this decision if they disagreed? If the answer is yes, you may already have enough confidence to stop talking. So remember the 7 lessons. 1. Over-explaining can make certainty look like uncertainty. 2. People read your behavior,
before they process your words. 3. Constant approval seeking changes the power of an interaction. 4. Silence creates space for people to process. 5. Boundaries need clarity, not endless justification. 6. Consistency builds the confidence that words alone cannot create. And 7. Silence isn't weakness. The real power is knowing why you're speaking and knowing when you're finished.
There will always be people who misunderstand you, people who disagree with you, people who don't approve of your choices. And if you spend your life trying to make every person understand, you will spend your life explaining. But you don't need everyone to understand you. You need to understand yourself. Know your values. Know your boundaries. Know your decisions. Then let your actions provide the evidence. Because the strongest explanation is often the life you consistently live. So, the next time someone questions your decision, don't rush. Don't panic. Don't start defending every detail. Pause. Look them in the eyes. Say what needs to be said. And when you've said enough, stop. Final line. You don't have to explain everything to everyone. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to LT Insight, because in the next episode, we're going deeper into another uncomfortable question. Why does speaking less sometimes make people respect you more? Until then, stop proving. Start becoming. And let your actions speak.